Psychology reveals this is the strongest sign of sexual tension. There's one tiny overlooked behavior that almost guarantees sexual tension is present, but hardly anyone knows to look for it. By the end of this video on Dark Facts 2.0, you'll know exactly what it is, along with 4 other subtle signs that psychology says reveal deep sexual attraction. The conversation slows, but the energy spikes. You've been talking smoothly, sharing stories and laughing, then suddenly silence not. The awkward kind, but the kind that feels electric, like the air just thickened around you. Psychologists call this a mutual pause, and it happens when 2 nervous systems sync up in heightened awareness. Neither of you rushes to fill the silence, because the tension is louder than words. It's like standing near a speaker before the music drops. You can't hear it yet, but you feel it coming. That stillness isn't emptiness, it's charged anticipation. It's a powerful moment where the unspoken connection builds and the atmosphere is thick with possibility. It's almost as if time itself slows down, and the space between you two becomes charged with a magnetic pull that neither can deny. This moment of quiet intensity is one of the clearest psychological indicators that sexual tension is building strong and undeniable. What's even more fascinating is how this phenomenon aligns with what neuroscientists refer to as interpersonal neurobiology, where the brain's mirror neurons begin to reflect the emotional state of the other person, creating a moment of energetic synchronization. This is not simply an awkward pause, but rather a neurochemical dance, where oxytocin, dopamine, and adrenaline begin to rise simultaneously. In both individuals, the stillness is soaked in expectation, and the body becomes acutely aware of the other's proximity, movement, and breath. This psychological synchronization is a deep primal mechanism that underlies mating behavior and emotional bonding, making it one of the most accurate silent signals of sexual interest. 2. Their micro-expressions betray them. Most people think sexual attraction shows up in big, obvious ways, lingering stares or flirty smiles. But the most telling signals are microscopic, literally. A subtle twitch at the corner of the mouth, a single raised eyebrow, a half-second flash of dilated pupils before they look away. These fleeting expressions are called micro-expressions, and they leak out before the conscious mind can edit them. If you catch someone giving you a flash of unguarded emotion and then quickly covering it with a neutral face, you've likely witnessed a moment of raw, unfiltered desire. These micro-expressions are like the windows to the subconscious mind. They reveal the truth underneath social masks and carefully controlled behavior. In relationships and interactions, micro-expressions are often missed, yet they are the purest form of honest emotional communication. When you learn to recognize these tiny involuntary cues, you unlock a deeper understanding of the attraction and desire simmering just beneath the surface. Psychological research, especially from the field of facial action coding systems, facts developed by Dr. Paul Ekman, confirms that these rapid-fire expressions are nearly impossible to fake and even harder to suppress. They emerge in just 1/25 of a second and are processed by the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for emotional responses, long before the logical brain has a chance to intervene. So if you're able to spot that glimmer in someone's eyes or the twitch of a hidden smile in the middle of a serious conversation, you're not imagining things, you're witnessing the primal truth leaking through. The cracks of self-control. These expressions reveal desire, hesitation, longing, and excitement in the most authentic and vulnerable form. 3. The conversation veers into the strangely specific when there's genuine sexual tension. Conversations often take odd, hyper-detailed turns. Instead of surface-level chit-chat, they'll suddenly share something oddly personal, like their favorite smell of rain-soaked pavement or a dream they had last night that made no sense. Why? Because the brain flooded with attraction struggles to stay logical. This spilling of oddly intimate details is their subconscious way of pulling you closer, without actually saying, "I want you." When people feel attracted, their cognitive filters lower and their defenses soften. This creates a space for vulnerability, where even the smallest details become significant and meaningful. It's as if the brain is trying to communicate desire through the language of everyday sensory experiences and odd memories. These seemingly random disclosures are actually subconscious invitations, inviting intimacy and deeper connection. They're subtle but powerful signals that the person is emotionally and sexually drawn to you. According to the concept of self-disclosure in psychology, especially in the context of attraction, people naturally open up more when they want to build a deeper bond. This process taps into the vulnerability loop, a term in emotional psychology, where one person reveals something authentic, prompting the other to do the same, thus creating an emotional rhythm that builds closeness. So when someone you're attracted to tells you about a childhood memory, a bizarre recurring dream, or a scent that drives them nostalgic, they are not just talking, they're offering a piece of themselves. It's a psychological offering of connection and a veiled signal of romantic or sexual curiosity. And the specificity matters because the brain connects more emotionally to details than to generalities, making the experience feel more intimate and real. 4. Physical distancing that feels intentional. Here's where it gets counterintuitive. Most advice talks about people leaning in when they're attracted, but intense sexual tension often causes the opposite, a slight pulling away. It's not rejection, it's restraint. Their body is literally holding itself back to avoid giving in too quickly. That tiny step backward, that subtle lean away while their eyes stay locked on yours is their nervous system, fighting the magnetic pull. The greater the distance paired with sustained attention, the stronger the underlying desire. This push and pull dynamic creates a delicious tension where desire is held just at bay, creating a heightened sense of anticipation. The physical distancing is a silent negotiation between impulse and control. It's a dance of wanting and resisting where every subtle movement communicates attraction and longing without a single word being spoken. From a psychophysiological standpoint, this is a form of arousal regulation, where the person subconsciously tries to manage their internal state to avoid overexposure or vulnerability, especially when the stakes of attraction feel high. The body becomes a battlefield between attraction and inhibition, with adrenaline causing micro-hesitations or retreats. These pauses aren't signs of disinterest, but proof of internal conflict between desire and self-restraint. The sustained eye contact, despite the distancing only, fuels the tension further because the eyes are still saying, "I want you," even when the body says not yet. This duality creates an emotional friction that often ignites deeper interest, especially in the early stages of attraction. 5. They forget to end the interaction. One of the clearest signs of deep attraction isn't what happens during the interaction, it's what doesn't happen at the end. When people are merely friendly, conversations have clear exits. "Well, I should get going, but..." With high sexual tension, the goodbye keeps stalling. They'll linger, add a random new topic, or repeat something they already said just to stretch the moment. Psychologically, it's like their mind is bargaining with reality, saying, "just a few more seconds." That hesitation to leave is desire, trying to stay present. It's the mind's way of resisting the finality of separation and holding on to the connection for as long as possible. This subtle reluctance to end things reveals how magnetic the attraction is and how much they want to savor the moment. Even in the simplest of interactions, this lingering signals a deep and powerful desire to maintain closeness and keep the connection alive. This behavioral cue ties directly into the Zeigarnik effect, a psychological phenomenon where people remember and remain emotionally attached to incomplete or interrupted tasks. In the case of lingering attraction, the unfinished goodbye becomes a loop the mind doesn't want to close it. Also links to dopamine-driven reward circuitry, where every additional moment spent in the presence of the desired person becomes a mini hit of pleasure and anticipation. The conversation itself may be over, but the emotional experience craves continuation, creating a kind of psychological inertia that resists separation. Their feet may be pointed toward the door, but their heart is still tethered to the moment, and that invisible pull is perhaps one of the most human and compelling signs of romantic interest. So there you have it from Dark Facts 2. 0. Psychology not only reveals the strongest signs of sexual tension, but also shows us that sometimes the smallest and most overlooked behaviors speak volumes about what's really going on beneath the surface. Recognizing these subtle cues can change how you understand attraction and connection forever. Stay tuned for more fascinating insights right here on Dark Facts 2. 0.